It is the 24th of February 2015, and this is the audio podcast show 142, format claims. Oh.
Hello, I'm Samuel Freeman. That was Scott Hewitt. Adam Yanch is here as well, and yeah, we're good to go, I think.
Yeah, I think we are. And remember, we run off the show notes, which can be found at the all-new designed the audio podcast website, theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/142, and email at it's show@theaudiopodcast.co.uk, and Twitter is @theaudiopodcast.
Woo!
Great!
And yeah, thank you for and it does work, these communication channels. We have, well, tweets we have now and then, but we have actually had a useful email from a listener today, Scott.
Yes, so John Waterman contacted us regarding a bug on our new website and told us about it, and we've now fixed it, but we thought it was cool to say hi as well back. So, hi John, thank you very much for your email. We appreciate it a lot. There we go. Adam left. Where did Adam go? It was time for the news, I think.
Adam, right, we started the news now.
We're in the news, yeah.
We're about
to. Yeah, I put this one. The Ars Technica have recently been profiling a couple of those, crazy cables, like an Ethernet cable that costs £1,000 and supposedly improves audio quality somehow, even though it's a digital system. And this was the last one that they put up, which was a premium sound microSDXC card by Sony, who should know better. Sony, but yeah, Sony are quite happy to try and take our money, and they're going to do it this way by basically releasing a micro SD card that is uber amazing and improves the quality of your digital audio.
When I saw the little picture on this story, it does look like someone's photoshopped it in and it's a joke, but apparently it's not. It's
really?
Well, to me it looked that way just because it's such a silly thing to write on. Like it's an SD card, like micro SD card thing, and it says for premium sound.
Well, I know that Ars Technica do have a dude who does Photoshop some of their titles, some of their photograph things, images together to make, through themes and the thing. But no, that is actually just I think just a picture. They probably did. Sony probably photoshopped that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I thought it was, I just smiled when I saw this appear. That was the main thing I did. There's a great quote in the article, isn't there, from a Sony spokesman who says, we aren't sure about the product's potential demand, but we thought some people who are committed to sound quality would want it. Which I think is always the classic, there's always people willing to pay more for theoretical things. I guess in defense, though, actually, let's be honest about this. In defense, they're saying that there is a actual fact running behind this, which is to say that this is a new microSDXC card, which will actually create less electrical noise when it's being used, which means that in certain very theoretical situations, you could imagine that noise would cross over into the audio system. That, like, electrical noise could cross over into the audio system and could be problematic. Like, it's not a complete scam. It's just
a partial scam.
Just
Yeah. I think what you said is kind of Ars Technica have the great promoted comments feature where instead of just getting whatever's random at the top, and there's quite a long post from DMur375 who claims to be an analog circuit designer and gives a big long spiel on the kind of things you were saying about interference and such the like, but still concludes that even if that were the case, then you're putting your premium sound card into a circuit that's been poorly designed to start with. So,
well, I mean, I read that as well at the end of the article, and I was like, it's nice that they actually have someone there to basically put a bit of like truth behind it all. But yes, highly theoretical.
Because I'll just give you an example. I know we're trying to have our new abridged news section. But I'll just give you an example because I have my Galaxy S3 phone, which I've talked about a couple of times and used as a review platform a few times. And the thing that I came to realize about this is that when you plug it into the mains, the microphone input and the headphone input on it become almost unusable, such as the noise. And when you unplugged it from the power supply, it's perfectly fine. So that's a prime example of a system where there is, the noise management inside it is very, very poor. And there's a surprising number of those devices around. So, it could be, like, I agree with him entirely. It could make a theoretical difference. In practice, you're never going to hear it. So,
So there you go. There you go. You're going to get more performance out of improving the quality of your MP3, encoding or switching to a high quality lossless format such as FLAC, or even just using WAVs. You probably hear 2496 more than over 1644.1 over this.
Yeah. No, I would agree. So if you want to, you could save your money, and what you could do is you could just send $100 to the audio podcast. We'll send you a 64 gig microSDXC card back, like just a random card back, and we'll send our thanks. We'll give you our thanks as well. Does that seem okay? Because can somebody just check the Amazon price there? I'm not like pushing us into a loss here, am I? We can.
We'll sign the card for you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Why not? We'll sign it as well. No worries.
It'll be an official The Audio Podcast SD card. We can even preload it of all of the shows up to that point. For that price, I would put effort.
Yep. But, okay, that's it done. So there you go. Right. That's the deal. We will send you one, preload it with all the material. How about this, guys? Let's go the whole hog here. We will even record us saying thank you.
Onto this one. Wonderful 128 kilobyte MP3.
Indeed so.
We need to draw a line there now. We're starting to.
Okay. Next news item, please.
This is another streaming kind of story for people who are streaming music instead of putting it on SD cards.
Yeah. Beatport, who are now owned by SFX, who I always remember as being the purveyors of really bad quality but awesome to watch science fiction, are now running a streaming service, which apparently is free and doesn't have any ads, but is currently in a closed beta. There you go.
It's probably it probably hasn't got any ads and you don't pay for it because it's in beta.
Well, apparently the plan is not to have ads or to do. Apparently the plan is for it to become open to everybody and for it not to have ads, because they're actually using it to supply as a lead generator for Beatport Pro, which is a place where you can buy mixes and you can buy music. So Beatport, for anybody who doesn't know, is very electronic focused and based. So this is not an iTunes everybody. This is a far more kind of curated collection of music that they have there. So there you go. I thought it was interesting. It's this kind of the streaming services are apparently highly unprofitable and apparently are all racing to bankruptcy. And why not start your service and just run it as a complete loss leader and see what happens.
Well, people like Google and Apple can do that because they have money coming in from elsewhere. But the Spotifys of this world don't have such an option.
That's true. There we go. So that's Beatport. If you've had a play with it and you've been in the beta service and you like to tell us more about what your experience of it was, that'd be great. Otherwise, if we get an invite in, then we're maybe let you know more. I don't know. There we go. You know what? I'm sick of these ethereal streaming things and kind of random bits of hardware that may or may not difference. Sam, tell me about a cool piece of synth hardware.
A cool piece of synth hardware which you could back on Kickstarter would be the Synthino XM. This is a currently active, quite newly started. We think it's new. We weren't sure if it was Plunder or news, but it's news because here we are. And this is a hardware thing from Get Lo-Fi and someone else collaborating. It is a MIDI synth basically. It has 5-note polyphony across 4 MIDI channels. It's got a 12-bit audio output at 25 kilohertz, and it's got a whole bunch of features, including so you can plug it in with 5-pin DIN, control it with any MIDI controller, or you can connect it via USB, and it's apparently compliant, so you'll be able to use it with Android, iOS devices or anything else that knows how to talk to it, and it'll power over there. Runs on 9-volt battery if you're not using USB. Has quarter-inch jack output, and can you do arpeggios, or just run as a synth, or it's got a little 4-track sequencer for grooveboxy stuff.
That's called 5-note polyphony, which is better than a Korg MS-2000. Although
Nice.
a Korg MS-2000 has got a lot more knobs and a keyboard.
Yeah, well,
and wooden end cheeks.
So I was a bit dubious at first, because so it's this in terms of knobs and buttons. It's got 4 buttons and 8 knobs, and they're completely unlabeled, so you have to memorize what they do. But it only runs in 3 different modes. So, and yeah, it's got for example, although it's got 4 buttons, one of those buttons works as an FN toggle. So you hold that down in order to give a different function to some of the knobs. So in synth mode, the top left knob would be the attack of the ADSR envelope, but if you hold down the 4th button, it becomes the decay of that envelope. Things like that. I think it sounds pretty cool. Although, I don't know. So for backing on this, the early birdie things have gone, but so what's available is the $139 price tag to get hold of one of these things in a few months' time, assuming it's successful, which works out about £90 UK sterling.
129, Sam.
Is it 129? Oh, yeah, no.
The early bird ones are actually early delivery, so you get them a month sooner, and it's $10 more. And there's also one that was a glossy black limited edition type as well.
So that's more like £83.46 at the moment on the exchange rate.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No.
And but there's a limited number. There are 100 being made of the standard type, and there are 94 left as of this moment in time. So, want to get in there quickly, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. I think it's an awesome. I thought it was awesome. I made the decision it was news rather than Plunder on the basis it was current, so I went for it in news. There you go. That's cool. Now, we've had hardware synthesizers which do things and actually achieve things. We've had another classic discussion of the streaming services and whether they actually achieve anything at all. And we've had the discussions of a improvement to a hardware format, making tenuous, if in any way, real gains at all. And in the week that Starbucks gave up selling CDs, which Sam didn't know they did at all, and
I didn't know those.
I didn't know that
at all.
Either.
Adam Yantch has an incredibly relevant feature for us about making records on cassettes.
Yes, indeed. And now, you might say that, Scott, but here, if you're watching the YouTube feed, and up on the screen now should be my video feed. Here we have Prayer Breakfast's Family Business on red cassette, and on blue cassette we have Jerry Paper. I can't remember what that one's called. Oh, it's called Fuzzy Logic. And these are 2 tapes that I have picked up. They're new, and they were newly released in the last 2 or 3 years. So there's been a little underground kind of rebirth of the tape format. And so I decided that for my new album, which hopefully should be released quite soon, I just got the masters back, and it all sounds amazing. I was going to make this album and release it as a digital download and as a cassette. And so I'm going to go through basically some of the thoughts that went through my head in preparing for that. So you guys, if you've got any questions, you can just stop me straight up and be like, hey, what about this? Okay, so the album that I'm releasing is going to be called Voltronic Galaxy, and I actually conceived it. This is stuff that came from my Creative Pact, last year, which basically I did like a large bunch of 1 to 2 minute snippets for. And then my idea was to extend those snippets out. And then I thought, okay, if I'm going to do that as a cassette, then what do I do? Well, first I thought about the medium. So what is significant about the cassette as a physical medium?
It's got two sides.
Yes, exactly.
Like and other things.
And other things. The key thing for us is that it has two sides. So it's like an LP. But what's the difference between the two-sided LP and the two-sided cassette tape?
The duration of the sides.
Yes and no. A cassette can be a lot longer than an LP can.
And the fact that when you stop playing it, you can come back and press play, it'll be exactly where you left it.
That's true. I hadn't even thought of that. But what I was going to say
infinite pause.
The fact that you can take a cassette. Adam, is this music for people to exercise to? Is this what you're creating? Is this for jogging music?
No.
Like with your Walkman clipped onto your shorts.
Well, you could do that. No. But the other key thing is that for it to work properly, a cassette, the sides have to be of a similar length.
Oh.
Because obviously on an LP, because it's just a groove, you could have one side 20 minutes long, one side 10 minutes long, and that's fine. But on a tape, if one side is a lot longer than the other, then the shorter side has a big gap, a big silence on it. So when I was thinking about the two-sidedness, I was like, okay, what can you do with that? And I decided that I was going to have upbeat tracks on side A and atmospheric tracks on side B. And this is a thing that a few different artists have played with in mediums. So, for example, Low by David Bowie. Have you guys heard that one?
Yeah.
Of course, I originally listened to it on CD because that's what I bought it on. And then you don't realize until a little bit later that all of the poppy tracks are on side A, and then all of the these kind of drawn out atmospheric-y type tunes are on side B. That's what they would have been on the LP. So I kind of strive for the same thing, but you can use that break, the two-sided break, for particular creative advantage. The other thing that I was thinking was, with the side lengths having to be almost the same, you want to have your side A to be slightly longer, so that if you do have a gap, it's at the end of the album, at the end of side B. So,
rather than the middle of the album.
Exactly. So you don't have to sit there for 2 minutes while it gets to the end, and then turns over and goes back and starts.
Now, can I just, seems appropriate time to add another one of my completely not fully thought out theories about albums in general, which is that all really good albums have a second to last track that is distinctively different, which draws your attention to the fact the music's about to end.
Oh.
So if you think of any really good albums, this is on the CD format though, the second to last track kind of stands out in some way. Which kind of, if you're just enjoying the music, it kind of brings you back to. Now, there's lots of psychological reasons that could be the case. If I've heard the album lots of times, I might just know that. But anyway, would you apply to, just thinking about the tape as a medium? Would you want the listener to kind of be somehow alerted to, other than the fact that the tape stops? Would you do anything within the music to?
Well, you could do that, and actually, that was another little factor that I'd written down in my notes, which is that. For a two-sided medium, what you should probably do is sculpt each side as an individual kind of work, as its own sequence. So side A starts and side A finishes. Side B starts and side B finishes. When you make for CD, you no longer have that break in the middle where that happens. So you don't have to think about that. You just end the album at the end. So do you think that from your knowledge, do you think that albums with the two-sided media have got that interesting track on both sides?
I don't know. I'm going to have to. This is something that I've often thought and observed when listening to music, but mostly on the CD format. I've not. I thought I'd bring it up now. We're going to ask that
no,
question. You know,
for your next feature, I think you should delve into this and give us some examples, because I've never thought of that. It has never crossed my mind, but you've obviously thought about it a lot, and I think it's a really interesting discussion.
I'm going to change what my next feature was, not to what you've suggested, but to something similar and some equally irrelevant pop thinking. The music about thinking about pop music that I've done.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay, so side A should be longer, and also while cassettes come in standard lengths, like if you went down to the shop and bought some blank tapes, they all tend to be the same. You'll get similar length types. If you go to the right tape duplicator, they will wind the tape to the nearest minute for you, or to a specified length for you. So you don't have to worry that your album has to be 30 minutes. Like each side has to be 30 minutes long, or each side has to be 15 minutes long. Because if you find the right place to do it, then they'll cut the tape to the right length for you. So those are some things to think about. Now, when I was creating Voltronic Galaxy, I was kind of aware that, you know, the sides had to be similar lengths, and to know how to do this properly, I would have to be quite methodical in how I finished the tracks off. So the first thing I did was I track listed both sides. I basically went through and I was like, okay, I want this track first, this track second, this track third on side A, and then I did the same for side B, and then I started side A first. I started and finished side A first, so I knew what length I had to work with for side B. And then side B, so I'm going to use a fun little Hangouts feature here, which is screen sharing, but a window. With side B, what I did, because okay, so you can see that now.
Almost, it's gone blank. It might load in a sec. Yeah, we see it now.
Okay, so it's a little text file that I created. So side A, I say the duration is 19:25. Actually, the duration ended up being more like 21 minutes, but this is an older version of this document. And then for side B, I was like, okay, so there are 7 tracks on side B. So take the duration of side A, divide it by 7, the number of tracks on side B, and I get an average track length that I have to work to. And then I went through each track as I extended it and finished it off. You can see in the duration column, that's the length of the track that it ended up being. I do an accumulation as well, and then I update the track average. So in the 4th, 5th column, track average, I update the track average each time for each time I finish a track, so I know what the new average is, effectively. So I mean, this is me being incredibly OCD about the whole process.
I'm almost surprised that that wasn't a spreadsheet there, Adam.
It probably could have been a spreadsheet, but I don't have, on my studio computer, I don't have a spreadsheet software. I probably could have used Google Sheets or whatever it's called. But this was easy enough. I went to a website. There are various time calculator websites, so if you find one that can divide time, then that's good for you. So finished side A first, went back to side B, and then the other thing to think about is if the side lengths don't quite marry up, you should build some flexibility into your tracks. So maybe be able to add a section in on a certain track, or be able to take sections out so that you can expand or reduce the track lengths and therefore the side lengths. And also you can add in, if you put a couple of throwaway tracks in there, you know, you can add those in instead. So in the end, it didn't really work quite that way, but I did kind of have a track on side A and a track on side B, which are shorter and that just kind of slotted in the middle as a kind of, it was more like a little break, and then, but you know, you have the ability there to change the lengths of the sides basically.
Of course. Can I ask you a question about the just this notion of time? and this hit. Do you feel that the demands of meeting the time became problematic in terms of the creative process of the composition, or did you find it useful having these average figures, knowing that you were aiming for an average length of a song when you were building a track?
I would say that's a good question, because I had both at different times. Sometimes I was like, okay, I've got to work a bit harder with this track to extend it, to get it to this length. And then when I got to near the end, I was more like, oh, you know, if I put this section in here, then this track is going to be too long, and I'm going to have to go back and figure out some other bit to cut or to lengthen the other side. But what I ended up doing was I ended up putting that aside, getting the track, finishing the track to where it felt right, and then looking back over the other tracks on both sides and deciding the best way to work. And what actually happened was there's a track on there that I wasn't. I originally dropped it from side A, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that track anymore. And that's why my notes say duration 1925, but it's actually 2154 in length, because I actually then did side B. Side B was too long. It was longer than side A. So I then went back and I was like, okay, so let's go back to this track, which I was going to drop, and I worked on it a bit and got it up to a good length. And actually, I think it might be the standout track on side A. It might be like the single. So that was a really good thing to do. But then side A was too long, but there was another track on side A which had a kind of the second section at the end. And I thought, you know what? Cut that second section out. I gain a bit of time by adding the other track in, and then I reduce the time a bit by taking this section out. And in the end, the two sides have ended up being almost the same length. So it worked out really well, and I was quite fortunate. But yeah, I mean, you have to. This is the creative complexity of having to deal with a two-sided medium that has to be of similar length. And you don't have that problem if you're doing digital only. You don't have that problem if you're doing CD. And LPs, you have a different set of restrictions that you have to consider. So, I mean, that's it, really. That's kind of side part one. For part two, I was probably going to go through the process of actually getting them duplicated, the tapes duplicated, and I'm going through that right now. So.
And we look forward to part two very much. Yes.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and you know, you can find some tape duplicators online by doing a bit of a search, and just don't expect this to be like a hugely popular thing. It's quite a niche little market.
That's cool.
So, well, two things just there then, quickly. Or perhaps not quickly. I don't know. The first one was picking up on you saying LPs. If you're making an album for vinyl, and you're going to be working with a different set of restrictions. Although you're intending to do this album just as a tape release and digital download, would it work as an LP? Could it translate across, even though it's been, you know?
Well, I think as an actual artistic work. Yes, it would be fine on LP. I didn't do LP because it's a bit too grandiose. This is like nobody knows who I am, so I'm not going to spend a lot of money making LPs. But I think it could. Where the LP gets complicated is your frequency ranges, and it's actually a very physical problem with the LP, which is if you put really extreme types of processing, particularly I think bass processing, and
yes,
print that into your vinyl, then the needle can skip out of the groove because of the vibration on it. So it has to be mastered differently, I think, for LP. And otherwise, I think that's the main technical hurdle that I can think of for LP. I probably don't get as good a bass from LPs, I imagine.
Maybe we'll come back to this next time we come around to talk about tapes again. We can always compare again. But my last thing was, as you were saying about grandiose and the tape and niche, to do with availability. Like I certainly have a tape player set up. I could listen to a tape immediately. Do you do you, Scott? I mean, I'm guessing that you do, Adam. If you're, I mean, you've got these examples here in front. I'm just wondering whether or not Scott have, do you happen to have a tape?
Not ready to go right now. I suspect I probably no. I tell a lie. I do. I have a ghetto blaster with a tape deck in it.
Actually, I'm the one who doesn't have a proper tape deck. These two tapes here, this one and this one, I've never listened to them on tape because I bought them on Bandcamp, and I was going to buy the digital on Bandcamp anyway, and then I just thought, you know what, it's like $1 more or something to buy the tape, so why not just buy the tape, and it's a little novelty or that kind of thing. But I do have a Walkman hidden away somewhere, tape cassette Walkman, and I've got the tape deck in the car, so I will be able to listen to my album.
Cool.
Thank you. That's cool. All right then, Adam. We look forward to part 2 whenever part 2 follows along, which will be a number of weeks away, probably, with the best intentions. So we look forward to that very much. Thank you very much, Adam. With that, shall we head into the plunder?
And if you're going to plunder things, then it should be audio related and often a video. And if it's going to be a video, it may as well have a cat in it.
That's very true. That's very true. I am responsible for this one, I guess. So it's a YouTube video of a kitten watching somebody do pitch modifications using Melodyne. That's all it is.
What happens in the video?
Yeah, I really, if I was to describe it, I would fail to do it justice. But I realize that for our audio listeners, it would actually be important for me to attempt so. So essentially, there is a silhouette of a cat, the silhouette being formed by the flat screen that it's looking at, which has Melodyne on it, and somebody does a little pitch shift of a part, and the cat follows the moving representation of the waveform as it goes up and down the screen.
So the cat's reacting to the visual, not the audio?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Interestingly, I opened up Melodyne for the very first time yesterday and had a little play with it. I mean, literally 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And then I went off and did the other thing I was going to do.
Awesome. Yeah. If you want to see it in person, it is. If you want to see it in person, it is on YouTube, and you can get the link from the audiopodcast.co.uk/show/142.
Finally, we wrap up with more crowdsourcing of funds. And Adam, did you suggest this one?
No.
Oh, okay.
My suggestion for Plunder was the Synthino, which was in the news.
So this is a Plunder item. As Plunder, let's just take the positive and ignore the negative, though alluding to the negative that perhaps does exist. But the Richard L. Spencer, who was the gentleman who was responsible for the arrangement of the instrumentation that we hear within the Amen break that most of our listeners, I suspect, are familiar with, there is a crowdfund kind of process underway to provide him a financial gesture of thanks for his arrangement of the instrumentation that resulted in the Amen break, as he has received not a penny for it ever.
That's nice. That's nice.
So if you want to, you can give some money as well.
Which one is the Amen break? Can you tell me a tune that it is used in? I guess it's been heavily sampled, basically.
Yes.
Yes, a lot. So I've been put on the spot. I could tell you all kinds of trivia about it, but actual tunes.
Well, here's the interesting, the kind of funny one, isn't it? Is that it was the Winstons, and the track was "Colour My Father," wasn't "Colour Him Father"? Is the name of the original track, if I remember correctly, which sold 1 million copies, and he received no money.
Boo.
So that's
back in the day when they were really, really dodgy, were record companies. Whereas now they're only slightly dodgy.
So there you go. That's I thought it was cool. Well, you know what? It is the epitome of Plunder for the audio podcast, so I thought it was definitely the kind of thing to go. And what was funny, it's no longer the case, but when I first saw this, I actually recognized the whole collection of people donating money, like their names, they were people I knew. So I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's not the case now. but it was just a moment ago. So that's kind of
Cool.
pretty cool. And
I
with
think
that,
with that,
yeah,
we come to the end of the audio podcast.
we have indeed the end of this week's show. Oh. There we go. So that was the audio podcast, show 142, Format Claims. Or if you want to subscribe to the audio podcast, you can do on iTunes, you can do via YouTube, you can do on Gpodder, and also on Stitcher. Or if you have any other kind of podcast subscription thing you'd like to use, then that's fine as well.
Hooray.
Anything, find us there. That's really cool. So feel free to subscribe to us. It's kind of encouraging if you enjoy to subscribe. If you have any more remarks about the new site, please feel free to contact us and let us know about that. For those people, we have analytics running on our site, so I feel I should, for all those people who I broke all the tag linkage because I just couldn't be bothered to preserve it, I'm sorry, and I'm fixing that problem, but it's going to take a while. I'm sorry, though.
That's all right, Scott. We forgive you.
There we go. That's cool. I'm just sorry. There we go. Who cares, though? It's the audio podcast, show 142, Format Claims, or I've been Scott here. I've had a great time, as always. I look forward to seeing you all next week.
I'm Samuel Freeman. I'd like to thank Sam Burkhead, who tweeted at us with the microSD audio file for the story.
Indeed. I'm Adam Yanch, and I'd like to say that I was going to put that in the news anyway, but Sam Burkhead picked up on it too, so that was cool. Have a great week, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye.
Bye.